Well, hello there, you magnificent specimen of humanity. Just look at you, wherever you are in the world right now. Look at your amazing potential. Look at how all your wounds and challenges and sufferings over the years can be slowly rebuilt into something of wisdom and beauty. It's quite an opening, isn't it? Welcome. If you're here for the first time, great to have you here. I just hope I can bring you some words of encouragement, a little bit of wisdom from all the wonderful men and women that have mentored into my life over the years and all the dumb stuff that I've done. Hopefully, what's that old saying? There's, it's okay to make mistakes, but try and make sure they're new ones. So hopefully my mistakes don't have to be yours. So it's really great to have you here, and it's on this human journey. I just hope I can bring you some blessings. So let's jump in. Please make sure you're subscribed. Hit those subscribe buttons. Makes a big difference if you do that. Free access to my book, Bridging the Gap. I want to give you free access to my book, so just hit the link down here. It's in the show notes for the podcast version here on the video streams. Go grab a free copy of it. Just it's set up that we send you I think we send you a chapter every 2 days. It's really cool, very simple to read. So go and grab yourself a free copy of that. You want to book me to speak? There's links there, and of course, please leave something in the comments if there is a topic you'd like me to cover. Someplace in life you feel stuck, tell me about it. We're going to do that. All right, today we are jumping into a really interesting quote from one of my absolute favorites. Regular listeners know, big fan of Alfred Adler. I think he's a bit of a hidden gem in the great firmament of psychological luminaries. Adler's quite a fantastic psychologist. Came across him pretty late, but I like what he's about to tell us. This one's a little bit challenging, but let's jump in. Let's hear from Alfred Adler. It is easy to believe that life is long and one's gifts are vast. Easy at the beginning, that is. But the limits of life grow more evident. It becomes clear that great work can be done rarely, if at all. When I first read that, it seemed really depressing. It was like, so what, Alfred? Like, none of us, like the chances of any of us doing anything really great is like slim to non-existent. That's not what he's saying. And this one's really important. What he's saying is, I think you'll agree with this. Do you remember when you're really young? And I don't know, I've got a really diverse mix of viewers and listeners. So when we're very young in life, we can tend to feel that the opportunities are vast. I've been reading the book, The Dream Giver. I might talk about that next week. And, it's the idea of uncovering the dreams that are within, and I was doing some sort of maintenance on the dreams of hopes and goals in my own life. And I was working through it, and I thought, what did I really want to do or be when I was younger? And I remember I wanted to be a spy. I wanted to be an F-18 pilot. I just saw the new Top Gun Maverick film the other day, and I'm like, that could have been me. All right. There's all these different things that I kind of thought I could have done and could have been, right? So when you're young, I think we have this innate sense of we can do anything, which is part of the beautiful thing about being young, right? But as we get older in life, when you get to a certain age, you start to realize that there are legitimately a bunch of things that are pretty much closed off. So the further you walk down the path, at least of your professional life, that you begin to realize that there are things that would be hard to take up and make great work out of, right? So if you've spent your entire life being a carpenter, it can be hard to turn around in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and become a heart surgeon. I mean, it's theoretically possible, right? But it's pretty unlikely. So here's the point. What Adler is saying to us in this video is, I think he's saying that we all need to realize, and I believe this to be true, that we are here with particular unique gifts and talents. And those of us who go on to do really great work recognize at some point that we have this unique gift or ability, and then we commit to it. Let me clarify what great work can look like. I was reading a biography of Mozart recently, and it's just extraordinary. But, to be fair, Mozart also had a father who was a court musician, so he was born into a family that had access to the greatest musicians of Europe at a time of phenomenal artistic flourishing in Europe, right? So Mozart is a prodigy. He was brilliant, especially at a very young age, but there were also other factors, right? But you can see that Mozart drills down. There's an obsessional nature with what he was doing. So he takes the raw talent, commits 200% to it, and then does great work. But here's the thing. You can do the same as a nurse. You can do the same as a carpenter. You can do the same as a landscape gardener. You can do the same as a teacher. So I don't think there's a hierarchy of giftings. I really don't. I think culturally we have one. I think culturally we go, wow, look at this brain surgeon. Wow. Yeah, look, brain surgery would be pretty hard. But so is being an amazing teacher. So is being an incredibly empathetic nurse. Can we rate them? What criteria would you rate them by? Yeah, I guess there is complexity, but you see where I'm going with this? That great work doesn't have to be classified necessarily by some stratified cultural hierarchy of what makes the most money. So what I think Adler's trying to say to us is, or say to you and me, is if you have been given a gift, and here's a spoiler, you have. I'm deeply convinced of this, that all of us have been given a kind of unique capacity for certain things. I've been really working through this post-COVID. I've been really praying a great deal and seeking the wise counsel of some very special people to help me recommit to the work that I kind of feel I've been given to do. Whether my audience is 2 or 200,000, right? As I said in a recent episode, I've done keynotes for over 10,000 people. And I clearly remember doing a talk in an outback mining town in Australia where we had 2 guys and a dog. The dog was very well behaved. So when I get up on stage, or even here in the studio, when I get in front of this camera, it's just something happens. I want to contribute. I want to give. So I'm at an age where I'm realizing that, at least for me, in this vocational sense of work and contribution, that I'm not being called to run a merchant bank. The call on my life isn't to be an astrophysicist. The call on my life is to do this because I want you to grow. So what Adler's telling us is that whatever your skill is, why not be really, really brilliant at it? So I'll tell you a story. When I did that keynote for 10,000 people in St. Louis, I remember sharing a story from one of my favourite films, and if you haven't seen it, it's an amazing film. It's called A Man for All Seasons. It came out in 1965. It stars the British actor Sir Paul Schofield, and it tells the story of St. Thomas More, who was an historical figure, of course, and he was the Lord High Chancellor of England, one of Henry VIII's right-hand guys, and eventually fell into this complex thing with Henry VIII and refused to give Henry VIII what he wanted and paid the ultimate price for it. But there's a scene at the start of the film where Thomas More is talking to a young man called Richard Rich. Richard's a school teacher who works in the courts of Henry VIII as a tutor or a teacher. And Richard Rich is frustrated because he doesn't really want to be a teacher. He wants to be really powerful and get in all the games and get promoted and get into all the court politics. And there's this beautiful moment where Thomas More says to him, he said, Rich, you're a teacher. He said, why not be a great one? And Richard Rich turns to him and says, but who would know? So Richard Rich's frustration is he wants to be seen, he wants to be famous and successful. And Thomas More gently reminds him that there is this, this is what Thomas More says. When Richard Rich says, who would know? St. Thomas More says, well, your students would know, your friends, your parents, God. He said, that's not a bad audience, Rich. It's not a bad audience. And you see, he's going straight to the heart of that truth, that there's a skill there. And the call on Richard's life is to develop that skill and not to develop different ones. So I just want to say to you, wherever you're at, whatever you do, if you're deeply miserable and unhappy in doing it, then I would really encourage you to think and pray about changing. Because life is relatively short, and Adler's going, as you get older, the options shrink. So if you're utterly miserable right now, then I would consider prayerfully discerning what you think is on your heart to do. If you're in a space where you are you feel that you are using your talents and gifts, then I would say to you, why not take it to the next level, right? Why not do something great with it? Create great work. Now, great work for a primary school teacher is not going to be seen on the national stage or the international stage. Great work for a Hollywood film producer might be. But you know what the difference is? There isn't one. There just isn't a difference. It looks like there's a difference because it gets different forms of recognition, but great work, using the talents that you've got, is great work. As a parent, like if one of my kids has a talent and another kid has a more spectacular talent that gets more recognized, do you think I go to my other kid, wow, that's not bad, it's not a bad talent, but if you see what your brother can do, wow, that's a talent. Like, what kind of psychopath would do that? And I don't do that. So my point is that I think as much as I as a father get joy out of seeing my own kids use their individual talents, I think God, the universe, gets a lot of joy out of seeing us use our talents. So don't waste any more of your life, okay? This is the point of this message. Don't waste any more of your life. Don't waste another day, minute, hour. Start moving. If you're good and you're in the right place, go further. If you're miserable, get out. Change while you have a chance. Do something, all right? Please speak to your legal professionals before doing anything crazy, all right? I don't want to get an email from someone's spouse saying, they just moved to Sierra Leone to start an orphanage. Well, that's your talent. All right. Keep moving forward. Please subscribe. Hit that other link. Grab yourself a free copy of my book, Bridging the Gap. God bless you. Please share this with people. Leave something in the comments, and I'll have another message for you tomorrow.